Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tina will have a roll call, please. Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here. Letter D, public comment. We don't have anybody. Nobody is signed in. Before we move on to item number 2, just want to take a moment to say how much that we appreciate Gary Djadji. Gary Djadji served this community and served this school district from the years of 2012 to 2015 as a school board member. And we have not made recognition of Mr. Djadji. He passed away recently, and we just want to give our condolences to the Djadji family for all of his dedication to the school district and to the community. So I'd like for us to have a moment of silence in honor of Mr. Djadji, and then also Dr. Bardo's mother recently passed away, and Dr. Bardo made it back just in time for the committee meetings last Monday. That's much appreciated. So could we just take a moment of silence for Mr. Djadji and Dr. Bardo's mother, please? Okay, thank you so much. I'm sure that Doreen appreciates your thoughts and your prayers for her, and I know that Dr. Bardo and his family appreciate your thoughts and prayers for their family as well. Moving on to number 2, under consent agenda, letter A, approval of agenda, minutes, and financial reports, report of district retirements and resignations, and report of district new hires. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the agenda, minutes from the July 15th, 2024 Board of Education meeting, minutes from the July 30th, 2024 Special Board of Education minutes, August committee meeting minutes, district retirement and resignation report, report of district new hires, financial reports for July and August 2024, consideration of current bills, checks number 8160 through 8225 in the amount of $245,071.87, ACHs number 242500003 through number 242500094 in the amount of $1,762,112.17, and wire transfers in the amount of $8,138.98 for a total of $2,015,323.03.
Motion has been made by Bobby. Just one correction, that's 99 cents, not 98, but you did a great job reading all those numbers. Would you like to speak to your motion, please? Hearing nothing. Any questions or comments? Dr. Bardo?
I need to abstain on check number 8197.
Any other questions or comments on the motion on the floor?
I would just like to comment and share my appreciation for the retirement for the staff who has served 20.5 years in our district. Thank you for your dedication.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion of the motion on the floor? Hearing none, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? And the vote is now closed. And the motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to number 3, administration reports. I will turn the floor over to our district administrator, Mrs. Ojensky.
For the administrative reports, item A, the Director of Business Services report is attached, and Mrs. Fossbender is present if there are any questions. Item B, the Director of Pupil Services and Special Education report is attached, and Ms. Wagner is present if there are any questions. Item C, Director of Curriculum and Instruction report is attached, and Ms. Stutzriem is present if there are any questions. Item D, Director of Buildings and Grounds report is attached, and Mr. Leiterman is present if there are any questions. Item E, Director of Technology report is attached, and Mrs. Mushak is available virtually if there are any questions.
Director of IT. I have a question regarding that. If you look
Can
in
you
the,
pull your mic to you just a
Oh,
little bit, Angie? Thank you.
Yes, Kesha is online.
okay, so I've been getting feedback from the community that people are having problems with our online registration. Some families have been having to register 2-3 times and it's still not showing up. Has that been resolved? Can you tell me?
Well, it is our first year moving forward with the online registration. So we have had a learning curve, to say the least. We have been navigating some recent staff resignations where we've had some other staff that have had to step up, but we have put the proper supports in place. Today, we had an on-site opportunity where we had members of our staff that were available for those families that were experiencing some issues. And we will also be having some additional support at the back-to-school nights at each building
Okay.
to support those families. I've gone through this in another district, and I would say the first year is always, the most challenging. Just navigating the new platform, getting emails and things of that nature in there. So it's not to say that it's been perfect, but we've, kind of anticipated some bumps with the expectation that it becomes a lot more smooth in the future and trying to put the supports in place to remediate those issues that families are having.
Okay. And when is there like a cutoff date for online registration? And like, what's the plan for people that don't?
So Kesha, I can speak to that.
Thank
So
you.
there is no cutoff date other than people need to be registered before the start of school, or since this is our first year, there typically will still be some families who aren't registered on the first day, but they will have, bless you, they will have assistance at the schools to help them to get the students enrolled before they just show up to attend school. But I will also have to say that I went through this in another district the first year that we did online registration, and it's never without hiccups. We just had some other things that happened, but we've put additional supports in place to make sure that we are supporting our families. And Ms. Stutzriem and I were at the high school all day from 7, and we have people there until 7 tonight to help support our families. And there were a few people who came in, but we've also had a lot of people who were able to register or enroll successfully online.
Okay.
Yep.
And thank you for that, and thank you for updates, because I just wanted to make sure it was being addressed, and that we, like you said, had the proper support in place.
Right. And we put a post out on Facebook. I did a dialer to our families also. And then today, the building principals sent out communication through Class Dojo as a reminder that people are present on site at the high school from this time. Plus, we also have people available at every building for the remainder of this week so that we are available throughout the times that families can make it to the schools to get it done.
Okay, so that went out for the elementary schools through Dojo. Mm-hmm. And what about the high schoolers?
Well, everybody got it through Messenger first.
Okay,
But as a reminder, we didn't send a reminder to the high school today. We just sent the elementaries and the middle school through Dojo today, and then it was on Facebook today for everyone as well.
Mrs. Borneman has a statement.
One of the things we're working through with messaging at the high school, it's not as easy as Class Dojo. We have to have it posted someplace on the lot, on our website or within Google before we can send it out
Sure.
in campus. So we're trying to work through that quickly. But to be able to send out quick messages, unless it's a dialer, it's a little more complicated right now up here. But we're working on a quick way to send that out.
okay, thank you.
That's good to know.
Thank you for that. Okay.
Sure.
Other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Mushak. Okay, and then lastly is the superintendent report. There are some photographs of some of the events that have been taking place in the past few weeks. If you would like to also make sure you take time to click on those links and see those. But the first thing I want to talk about is each year in July, most administrative contracts are renewed, negotiated, what have you. And as many of our staff and our board know, we were not in a place where we could renovate or make any changes to our teacher compensation plan, but all staff in the district received an increase, whether they were support staff or our teaching staff. And as a collective whole, all of the district office administrators chose to forego the opportunity to receive a pay increase for the upcoming year because we weren't able to do something more for our teacher compensation plan. So we felt that it was only right for us to take that kind of stand to try to balance out some of the concerns from the community with having to pay 2 superintendents last year and then the salaries that our administrators came in at. So we felt that it was a good faith effort on our behalf to show our dedication to the district. So we all chose to not receive a pay increase for the 24-25 school year, and that is Jake Leiterman, Amy Stutzream, Kelly Fosbender, Tina Verhagen, and myself. And Mrs. Fosbender will be working alongside myself and a committee for next year to redo our teacher compensation plan to where we are competitive and able to sustain a quality comp for teachers and our support staff to make some changes to that. But along with that, to also develop an administrative compensation plan so that there are no surprises. It's how you are able to more efficiently budget. So that is work that will be coming. And the next item, the referendum update. We being Mrs. Fosbender and Mr. Leiterman and myself, have had lots of meetings with the Donovan Group working on flyers. And I have linked the one final, well, not final, but finalized flyer that we have spent a lot of time on for everyone to see. We also have a financial flyer that we are finalizing and a slideshow for referendum engagements within our community, and a banner along with a financial flyer as well. So those things will be coming out before the end of this week. It's a really busy time of the year, but I attached that for everyone to be able to see. On July 30th, our administrators and admin assistants had training at the middle school with Joe Schrader from ASA. It's a great training that we were able to offer to our staff, and it helps our administrative assistants be very efficient with building and district administration to make sure that we're all efficient and as productive with our time as we possibly can be. And then on August 13th, new teacher orientation began, and Ms. Stutzream spent a lot of time and energy in preparing our new teachers, and it was absolutely phenomenal. I strongly encourage you to look at the photos. We were able to get a trolley ride, and we took our new teachers through a tour of Antigo and pointed out some very specific pride points of Antigo, and then we took a ride out to the school forest where the teachers had lunch. Board President Danny Pyatt was able to join us. So I'm hopeful that next year that maybe more board members can join us too, because it was really a nice time, and it helps us to retain staff. It helps to build those relationships. So it was something really unique, and everyone enjoyed it. And then on August 14th, we had our second annual Welcome Back to School Parade. There was a large number of staff that showed up to support the Red Robin Welcome Back Parade, and there are also photos attached in the link as well. And then tomorrow, August 20th, is our welcome back for the entire district. I hope all of our board members are able to attend. We will begin promptly in the Vaughan Theater at 8 o'clock. Breakfast will be served at 7:30, so I encourage all of you to attend. And then the last item on my report is I need to set a date in which we can have just a working session around referendum engagements. So I would like for us to be able to do that before we move on to the next agenda item, if possible. So what is next week looking like for everyone? Is Monday better to keep it on a Monday, or would Tuesday work? Or Wednesday? What day works best? Thursday? It's really going to be, we're going to lay out some different events that are happening in our community and do some brainstorming around some things that maybe someone didn't think about that we can add to our list to make sure that we are able to reach as many members of our community as possible. So it's very important that we have as many people present as possible.
So is this going to be like the practice run of the presentation that we'll be using?
Not necessarily. I envisioned it to be more of just going through the list that we have created and then talking about different opportunities to reach out to community members. We could go over the presentation because it will be ready by that time, so we could do that because everyone would share the same slideshow and make sure that we were giving out the same information.
Absolutely.
Yep.
What does Monday look like for everybody's schedule?
I'm good.
I'm good with that.
Jill?
I think so off memory.
I don't know.
I don't have access to my other calendar here.
Okay. Angie, Catherine, Kristen, what is your,
Are we at 6 PM is what we're thinking?
well, that was my next question was going to be the time.
Monday's fine at 6 for me.
That would be fine for me as well.
Okay.
So Monday, the 26th.
Monday, the 26th at 6 PM. And that'll be an open meeting.
And it will be posted. Okay. Thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Mrs. Oginski and her superintendent's report? Okay. Number 4, board action. Looking at item letter A, spring training softball field trip. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the full Board of Education to approve the spring training softball field trip to Florida in March of 2025.
Motion has been made by Dr. Bardo. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Are there any questions or discussion of the motion on the floor? We have Sandy present to answer any of those questions.
It's been done before.
Any other questions or comments, discussion? Third and final time, questions?
This was discussed in committee, but I just want to make sure, since Ms. Roebuck is here, is there anything that you would like to share? Are you good with what we discussed in committee? You took the time to be here, which we appreciate, so I want to also make sure you have the opportunity to speak if you'd like to.
Nothing to add to?
Obviously, I'd add if you have a question, but I think, like Dr. Barber said, I've
Done
been
it
here,
before.
done it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's gone well, and if you don't have any concerns, I'm ready.
Okay. All right, then the motion on the floor is to move the board to approve the spring training softball field trip to Florida in March of 2025. And the voting device is now open.
It's me.
We have,
Pushed it twice.
can we erase that vote, Dustin? Because John, JD's not here. Dave, I think.
Oh, maybe I.
You got the wrong.
Well, I am closing in on 73, okay? I'll try my own vote this time.
Can we just note that I'm kidding, abstaining for JD?
Okay, now try, Dave. All right.
I had it right here, but I saw that one. I wanted it.
Dustin, do you see the result of the vote before you post it? To make sure that it is?
I can't see, but
Okay.
I hit the abstain.
You did. Would anybody like to change their vote? Hopefully JD has changed his vote. All right, the vote is now closed, and JD did change his vote, and the vote carries. Have a good time. Letter B, respiratory distress management and medical advisor agreement. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the Board of Education approve the USDA respiratory distress management plan in connection with the medical advisor agreement.
Motion has been made by Angie. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I just want to point out that in the medical advisor agreement, it talks about the advisory activities may include, and it's, so this person may advise and consult on the prevention, identification, and control of infestations and infectious communicable diseases. I just want to point out that this is an advisory position, because in the years past, if you remember back when we had COVID, we had some doctors that worked for local Aspirus Hospital, nothing wrong with Aspirus, but their job required them to say a certain opinion of things. And if that happens again, for whatever reason, I just want to point out that they are advising, we do not have to follow what they say, they are simply advising us.
Correct.
So that I just wanted to point that out.
Correct. This language for the medical advisor agreement has not changed for the
Right.
years that I've been on the board, so that has always been the stand of advisory role.
Yes.
Correct.
Just wanted to point it out for information.
Absolutely.
And then who's going to, do we know the doctor that's going to be named for this? Because it's not.
It would be Dr.
Dennis?
McKenna.
Okay.
Mhm.
And he's a great doctor, so.
And we do want to thank Dr. McKenna because of all of his years of doing this, and he gets no compensation for this at all. This is his way of giving back to the community and to the district.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion of the motion on the floor? Okay, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? All right, the vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Moving on to letter C, athletic training services. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the Board of Education to approve the agreement between Langlade Hospital Hotel View, I don't know how to say that. I'm gonna say Langlade Hospital, looking for help. No?
Hotel
Do.
Do.
It's French.
Okay.
Do.
Yep.
I'm gonna start over. I move the Board of Education to approve the agreement between the Langlade Hospital Hotel Dieu of St. Joseph of Antigo and the Unified School District of Antigo for athletic training services.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I would like to share my appreciation to our athletic trainer who, how many years of service have you had in this role?
It's my 31st year.
31st?
I think she's the only one we've ever had.
When I first started, the booster club actually paid for my first year. And that was one big consolidated booster club that just fed all the different sports.
And we had to convince some coaches that we needed one. Right?
We won't mention any names.
So thank you for your 31, going on 32 years,
This is my 31st.
31st year of service. It's greatly appreciated. You're a familiar face in the community, and your dedication to our youth sports is next to none, second to none. So thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? I ditto what Jill said. Thank you, Sandy, for all of your hard work. And she does work hard on the field and off the field, on the buses, to and from. You don't see a lot of the behind the scenes, but I was fortunate to see a lot of the behind the scenes, so great job. Okay, no other discussion. The motion on the floor, the vote is now open.
Keep voting.
Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Moving on to letter D, second reading of Neola update policies, compliance officer updates for non-discrimination policies. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the second reading of the Neola update policies for compliance officer updates for the non-discrimination policies.
Motion has been made by Catherine. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Any discussion or questions of the motion on the floor?
Can I just have a recap of what was discussed on the first reading? So that we have a
Mrs.
kind
Oginski?
of record of it?
So the compliance officers get updated if there's a changeover in staff, and so Mrs. Wagner and Mr. Schofield will remain the compliance officers. But the names had to be changed to reflect Mrs. Wagner.
Okay. I believe there was discussion on how we were viewing the definition of sex, if that was sex assigned at birth, or how we were.
That wasn't on this.
That wasn't? I thought it was.
No, this is just
Okay.
to have the officers named.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was, okay. I apologize.
That was Title IX.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got confused. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing no questions or discussion, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter E, second reading of policy 7540.04, staff technology acceptable use and safety revisions. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the second reading of policy 7540.04, staff technology, acceptable use, and safety revisions.
Motion's been made by Bobby. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I don't believe so, no.
Any questions or comments of the motion on the floor? Yes, ma'am.
So is this regarding, or does this cover, I guess, the Snapchat app? I'm reading it as it does. So like if we have teachers communicating with students through Snapchat, is this policy covering that, or is that somewhere else?
So where do you see that you think it covers Snapchat? Because it
talks-
says district-issued staff email account,
Yep.
staff and board members, district email system,
On the
internet.
second paragraph where it says,
Page 1.
Web content,
yep,
apps,
web,
and services.
yep, on personal communication devices as defined in policy 7540.02, web content, apps, and services. So do we have to go to that other policy to, or is that, to get the language surrounding like Snapchat, other apps that are being used for communication, or is that addressed in this policy?
Well, Kesha, feel free to correct me, but I feel like that is in a whole different policy about staff communication devices.
And I was just gonna also add to that, we will also have admin guidelines that speak more specifically around specific apps that either the district approves or does not approve.
Okay.
Policies at like a higher level, just kind of outlining holistically, professionalism while using devices. But if we have a specific stance around apps and district-approved apps, we could outline that in the admin guidelines if there's a concern about a specific app.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or discussion of the motion on the floor? Any other questions or discussion of the motion on the floor? All right, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Item F, first reading of policy 5460, graduation requirements. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the Board of Education to approve the first reading of policy 5460, graduation requirements.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
This was discussed in committee. Ms. Mortimer's here as well. She did a fabulous job, and Ms. Stutstream discussing this item and another one as well, a few of them actually. But in a nutshell, it is not reducing the requirements on our students, but instead increasing the clarity of what we're expecting in relation to state statute, and then what we offer for courses as well, to make sure they're all in alignment. And it will increase ability for students to also, we were heavy on electives and not a lot of wiggle room if you were to not pass one of the core classes. So it just gives some more flexibility that way to make up credits that are required for core classes.
Correct. Any other questions or discussion of the motion on the floor? Kristen?
Just a clarifying point, we are decreasing the number of credits required to graduate, but it is in line with all districts in our area and the state, and it's not affecting any core classes, just to clarify.
That's correct. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we have a student that has all of their graduation credits met, right? They have the 22 credits, and then they don't have any, they don't want to take any further electives, right? We don't have study hall anymore. So then will they be like allowed to leave early?
I'll defer that to either Mrs. Borneman's coming down.
So I don't know exactly when we went from 8 class periods to 7 class periods, but it really tightened up that window. And you're right, we have some kids who excel at school and do a really great job. We do offer the opportunity to graduate early, but they do need to go through those steps. We would rather see them take on new skills and go to early college credit or go explore things in the shop and get some of the certifications that are offered there and really give them the leeway to figure out what they want to do as a career and follow those career paths. So it's more about that and less about just jumping through the hoops to get to that 22 number. It's more about, okay, what can we set you up with? I don't care if you never weld again after high school, but if you can learn that skill here, I mean, look at where we live, right? Everybody needs a welder from time to time, and you might go on to do something totally different, but giving them those kind of skills. And I realize there's some hesitancy out there right now. I've been hearing that from the community about, well, my child has almost all their credits. What are they going to do? They're going to go explore things they're excited about for a year. Like, I spent my entire year in the choral department as a senior. Do not ask me to sing anything. But because I could, right? So, like, giving them the opportunity and the freedom to be able to do that for our students who excel so we can enrich their college or their high school experience and bring some pride back into our building, but also our kids who are struggling, also be able to give them a place where they're a little more comfortable. Like, you know what? That math class didn't go so well for me, but I have another opportunity to try it again. So that's where we're coming from.
Sure. Do we still offer like local internships or anything like that?
Yep, we have YA and we have co-op this year, and we're looking at expanding those. We, in the past, have offered a TA program that is not currently in the course catalog, so we're looking at putting that back in the course catalog for next school year. I'm not sure what happened, but we're looking at expanding those opportunities also for students.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions before Mrs. Borneman sits down? Does Mr. Blood know that you were a choir singer? He does now.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, hearing no other discussion or questions of the motion on the floor, the voting device is now open. Who's that, Bobby? I'll try one more time. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed. And the motion carries. That will come back again next month for a second reading. Letter G, Alternative Education Plan, High School. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the Board of Education to approve the alternative education program, including the Judo 2 narrative and graduation plan.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
This was also discussed in committee, and there was an exceptional discussion on it, I would say, focusing on having an intentional alternative educational program that provides our students that are credit deficient with the skills to be college and or career ready. And the discussion centered a lot on decision-making due to looking at our data with the percentages by class, a number of, sorry, I'm rambling. Credit deficiency by grade level is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion of the motion on the floor?
This will still be in the high school?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yeah.
we're No, I didn't, I'm sorry. I was trying to find
Do
it quickly.
you have the numbers on you? Perfect, because I was going to actually ask that these numbers be shared, because I think it's really important that we are being honest with ourselves and our community, and also seeing that we can and will support students in getting out of that credit deficiency and on to Pass for Success. So I'm going to turn it over to share the data that was presented at committee.
Yeah, so when Ms. Borneman arrived, she wanted to do a deep audit into where we are with credits, with our transcripts, to make sure people were on track. With all the requirements, we looked at the graduation requirements. That's kind of why all this kind of came down the tube right now. And what we found is, we knew it was staggering, I guess, but when you don't put numbers to it, and each number is a student and somebody's family member and somebody's loved one, that makes you take a look at it and realize that if we continue to do what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always gotten. And it doesn't mean that anyone's doing anything intentionally bad or, out of ill will, but our population is changing, our students change, the world changed, society has changed, technology have changed, and we have to change along with it, because if not, the numbers that we see right now will compound for the following year and the year after that, and it will become to a point where we can't roll that back. So Ms. Borneman and her team have taken a lot of time to figure out each student's need, talk to the families, and we wanted to share the data with you so that you can and the community can understand if they hear, well, why is this changing at the high school, and why is this changing at the middle school, and what are they even doing down to 4K, because we know it's a system-wide occurrence. We don't enter high school and then just suddenly fail, right? We have to make sure that we're doing it at all levels and making sure that we're providing all of our students the best education that Anago can provide. But I think the numbers are staggering, and it's important that we see them, hear them, recognize them, and then the plan that we're going to do moving forward to change that. So I'll let Ms. Borneman speak, because it was her work and her team that did the hard lifting of finding the numbers and putting in a plan in place that she'll talk about.
So the high school team dug into all the credits of all of our high schoolers this year, and we found that our seniors, we have 63 out of 180 seniors that are at least half a credit to 6 credits, so half a credit to 6 credits, that's a big window, behind their grade level peers, and we had 41 of those 180 are 7 or more credits, so that's an entire grade level behind their peers, so that's 23% of our senior class. Again, we did that for juniors, and they have 91 out of 162 students, or 56%, who are credit deficient in some way, so 0.5 credit, half a semester, all the way to 6 credits. And of that 91, 56 of those students are a whole 7 credits or grade level behind in their peers. So that's 35% of the junior class. Of our incoming 10th graders, 72 out of 154, or 46%, are mildly a half a credit to 6 credits behind. And 32 of those 72 are 7 or more credits, so entire grade level. Some of them are coming into sophomore year with 1 credit, 2 credit, 0.5 credit. And so we need to do something differently, right? So what we have presented to you guys has a plan is we would like to open a GDO 2. We've had GDO 2. We have used it inconsistently in the past. We would like to run 2 GDO 2 sessions in the morning and an alternative ed session in the afternoon instead of a WINGS program. This would be ran a little bit differently. We have a teacher in the afternoon who will be teaching in-person classes. They will not be on Edmentum, so they will be high quality. We'll be using high quality materials. She'll be able to do science experiments. They'll be able to bring in their check stubs and go through, this is how taxes come out, this is what insurance looks like, all of those different life skills that they're going to need, while at the same time being able to catch up on those credits in a way that they're not just like doing something independently. We're ensuring that they're learning those skills so that we don't hear from employers, a student graduated and they couldn't measure, those kind of things. We're trying to take those barriers away. So for our high needs kids, we're looking at 2 GDO 2 sessions because GDO 2 is a ratio of 1 to 15. We can only run, so we can only run 2. We can run in the fall and 1 in the spring. And then an alternative ed program for more of our juniors who are in a tight spot. 91 out of 180 of our juniors, that's a huge chunk. And so we need to give them a boost. And then senior year, possibly they can go back out into regular classes, or they might need to do GDO 2, or they might need to stay in alt ed, right? Giving them different opportunities. Our 10th graders who are coming in, we're offering intensive credit recovery. That's 2-hour blocks where they're in with a teacher in the classroom, and they'll be all working on math for this 20 minutes, then social studies for this 20 minutes, ELA for this 20 minutes, and just kind of cycling through those things. We've worked a lot on how we group those students so that they're successful in that 2-hour chunk. And will they go into their junior year possibly a little behind in electives? They might, but electives are easy to get. Kids usually excel in electives, and you can do work release when you get to junior and senior year through YA, through co-op, through the alternative ed program to get some of those electives. So that's what we're hoping. That's what our program looks like. For students who are just 1 credit, half a credit behind, we're looking to do that during Pride Time. Pride Time looks different this year. It's at the end of the day. Everyone is here from bell to bell. And students will be getting instruction for credit recovery during Pride Time, for the most part from a teacher instead of just from an online program. So we're trying to up the rigor of that. Because if you failed algebra, we can't just put you in geometry and put you online for algebra because you're not getting those skills. And so we're trying to couple that a little bit better to make sure we're scaffolding those in so we don't have juniors who failed algebra, failed geometry, now they have algebra 2 along with algebra and geometry in their schedule. So it really is building the system for them ground up. It's a lot of conversations with parents and making sure everybody's on the same page, but we're asking for approval for the new alt ed program. It is in line with DPI. They are okay with everything that we're doing. They saw the graduation plan. They saw everything. It meets all the requirements. And then down the road, which I'm not supposed to talk about it now, we're asking for a little forgiveness for our December graduates because GDO 2 graduates, that first cohort, they would graduate in December. So it just kind of all rolls together, but then going forward, we're catching those kids before they get to that point. So we'll have a team of staff who will be looking at DNF reports at the quarter. They'll be looking at truancy. They'll be looking at behaviors to try to catch those kids before we're a whole year behind our peers. It's not going to be a perfect system, but that's the goal is we will get there so that our numbers are much, much smaller.
Dr. Bardo?
I'm just going to smile because I know we made the right decision in hiring you because this is bad news, but at the same time, we have someone in place who wants to change things at the high school, and I'm proud that you're here.
Thank you. And there have been some really passionate staff at the high school. Scott Sigmund, Tiffany Myers, Matt Marock, we've all put a lot of time in. Our counselors, Betsy and Alicia, have really put a lot of time in. Amanda Moore, looking at all these credits and coming up with these things and making sure that it's well-rounded and that we aren't missing something. And I might be missing somebody who was on the team, so I apologize. But they really put a lot of heavy work into this, too. So hopefully we can get where we need to be.
Any other questions or comments for Mrs. Borneman? Yeah? Go ahead, Angie.
Can you tell me, is this going to be like graded, or is this going to be like a pass-fail for these students?
So if you're in GDO 2, what goes on your transcript is your actual GED test score.
Okay.
And so I still have to work through those. I'm not going to lie, I haven't gotten that far yet. But I know what they need to look like. It's just really a formatting thing on our end.
Okay.
And then if you're in alt ed, you'll get a grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see on, hang on, let me pull up the right document.
Except for work release, that will be pass-fail.
Oh, okay. The narrative form.
Mhm.
It says, I don't know what page it's on, last page. It talks about additional requirements, and that students will need to complete a total of 150 combined community service hours / work experience volunteer hours. Do we have a list of people in the community, organizations, and stuff that are willing to take these kids? Because like I know I've personally had people reach out to me saying, hey, my kid needs to do community service. Is there anything that they can do? Like, there is no list, as far as I know. So do we have a list for these students, since it's going to be a requirement, like where they can reach out, how they can help the community?
So most of them are getting it through work, and 10 hours a week through work, and those who aren't, we're working with them to figure out what that might look like for them. But most of them are choosing to get a job and then just turn in their pay stubs.
Okay.
I think what you might be referring to in terms of a list is court-ordered community service hours that have to be met through a nonprofit. So I don't know if it's the same, but when you talk about a list, I'm familiar with my other role, that might be it, where this would not be, a court order or needing to be done through a nonprofit. It could be done through their employer.
Sure.
Yep, correct.
But if they don't have an employer, like I didn't know if like there was
There is
A
they
list.
can look at that list.
Yeah.
And Mr. Sigmund's really helping them work through that program because we want them to all be successful.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
And then my last question is, are we, and I know I've preached and preached about this for the whole time I've been on the board, but are we utilizing Khan Academy? Because when I was in college, they were a lifeline to me, trying to, go through all the different accounting classes and all the different maths and everything. But they offer everything from pre-K all the way through 8th grade math, and then they have high school, college. They have economics. They have art classes, arts and humanities, community test prep. I mean, they are such, reading and language arts, they are such a great resource that I feel is very underutilized by the public school system.
So specifically in the alt ed program, right now we are not, we're using a GED ready program for the GEDO 2 students. And then the alt ed students, we have one of our science teachers who will be teaching that in person with Ms. Myers. And then she is going to use a curriculum called Buzz that we get for this year so she can build her own. She is really excited about her curriculum and being able to weave in all the different standards that she needs, and she's got a good start on that. I don't know if she's going to supplement with that. We haven't gotten that far into that conversation.
Okay. I just know that like Khan Academy, when I was using it, and Trinity's also used it too.
Yep.
I mean, they explain things in a very simple way. They make things that are very complicated, very easy to understand. So, that's all.
Any other questions or discussion for Mrs. Borneman? Thank you so much. Okay, the voting device is now open for the alternative education plan for the high school. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Thank you. Letter H, early graduation. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the Board of Education to approve 15 GEDO 2 seniors to graduate after the first semester with successful completion of the GEDO 2 requirements.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Nope, nothing further.
Any discussion or questions of the motion on the floor? Any questions or discussion of the motion on the floor? Okay. The voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter I, Act 20, I'm in another role right there. Act 20, next steps. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the Board of Education to approve Act 20 leadership training through CISA 6.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Nope.
Okay, any questions or discussion of the motion on the floor? Angie, go ahead.
Is this included in our contract? Or is this going to be additional cost?
So I think you're referencing the CISA contract?
Yes.
Okay, so if you look in there, we have the opportunity to work through CISA 6, and it doesn't mean CISA 9 isn't great, that's not the point. So working with CISA 6 is gonna allow us to have in-house training, and rather than sending our staff and having to get subs to CISAs, which some districts tend to do, which is fine, we really looked at the plan as something as not just a checkoff. We don't wanna just axe it, I guess if you could say, Axe 20, but just like check it off just to get it done. We wanna make sure that our teachers are really building their capacity, and they want that as well, right? If we're gonna do all this work, let's get something out of it and do good for our kids. So one of the things that CISA 6 offers is they're gonna come and they're gonna train our leadership, which is our instructional coaches and our admin, myself, our reading specialist. We have to have those based on the requirements through DPI, and I put them in the topic summary sheet as well. But we have to do that part of it. Now, we don't have to send the rest of our staff to a CISA then, and you can see in there, we save almost $43,000, $42,000, because our reading specialist is gonna work with CESA 6, and we're gonna work with Cox Campus, which is a free tool right now that has been approved by DPI, to really make sure that we can space it out over the year and not just hit our teachers like with PD days of like 4 PD days, they have to learn all this. We know that they're not gonna be able to implement it because it's just gonna be too much information, and information overload. So one of the options of going with CESA 6 is that we have that capacity to build our own program that really is going to benefit our kids and our teachers. So we're going to start slow to go fast. We're going to make sure that all of our leadership, they have to be trained by June of 2025. So that's what you're seeing right there is that amount. And then we are going to start training our teachers. They don't have to be completed by June of 2025. We're just going to start with the first 3 modules and get to phonemic awareness, sounds, sound blending, all the way through phonics this first year, and then head into 2025, 2026 with the rest of Cox Campus. So it's not, to answer your question, it does not go in with our CESA 9 consortium kind of contract that we have with them, that we do our speech and kind of all these other components. This will be separate.
I thought we had a CESA 6 contract as well, no?
CESA 9.
With something else.
With something else.
Okay.
Yes.
Where is CESA 6?
Okay.
Where's CESA 6 at? Scott's asking.
Oh, like Green Bay area, Oshkosh. Yep. Yep. We utilize CESA 6 for some 4K work as well, so you might have seen some things come across the school board, but we use them for some 4K around shared reading, and we're incorporating shared writing this year with CESA 6, and we work with Laura Deering. So we have some people that have worked with Anago in the past that we want to make sure we're not just randomly getting more and more consultants, because then it's always the start over. So Laura Deering has worked with us for years. Nicole Lair has worked with us on other capacities in Anago for years, so she's going to help build that capacity for our leadership team.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions about Act 20?
Okay, if there are no other questions, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter J, professional development / solution tree. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the Board of Education to approve the professional development plan through Solution Tree for the 24-25 school year.
Motion has been made by Bobby. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Just to reiterate again what Amy had touched on earlier in the meet and greet, is that this is an amazing opportunity for our staff to work with. So,
Okay.
all good.
Any other questions or discussion of the motion on the floor for the professional development for Solution Tree?
Can you just give an example of like what kind of professional development?
Like what they're going to do?
Yeah, because like $260,000.
It's a lot of money.
Is a lot of money, so.
Absolutely.
What are we?
So
gonna do
that
for
is 2 schools. So we decided to work with our middle school and high school for some of the reasons that Ms. Borneman talked about, if not now, when, right? Like if we don't stop the bleeding of our students becoming credit deficient and not being able to pass high school and be like in our community and be successful. So this is the year. So we're actually doing it at the middle school and the high school. The reason we decided not to do it at the elementary is because you have to pay by school, and our schools are so small at the elementary currently, hopefully not in the future, but currently they're so small that it wouldn't financially make sense. So what's going to happen, they're actually coming, they'll probably be in Anago today, but we paid for the first part because they are actually going to be our coaches in-house. So the high school has a coach and the middle school has a coach. They're showing up tomorrow, and they're doing a full day with us Wednesday with all of our staff. And so they are with the Solution Tree Priority School. And what that means are schools exactly like ours that are in the exact state we are, with the wonderful teachers we have, and teaches us how to turn that around quickly. Most of all, the most important thing is, yes, it's a lot of money, but they can see great gains in less than 2 years. And I think our kids at the high school deserve that, just my opinion, and I know you share that, that we have to turn it around quickly at this point and not look at a long-term plan of like 10 years, because we have kids failing now, and we have kids that are not failing that deserve also good instruction and being ready for, college, career, whatever they choose. So each school has a coach. They are going to help. We've met with them a bunch of times already virtually. They come in and they help us work through our essential standards, make sure we know exactly what we're targeting to teach, make sure we help us know how to teach. They will come back every month. And they do some embedded coaching, so we drive it based on what we need at the schools. So the high school and middle school could look very different, and they probably will, based on the need. But like, the high school on Wednesday is doing a full day around PLC work and around instructional practices that are high leverage at Tier 1. So for all students, because we know we have a Tier 1 problem, otherwise we'd have very small amount of students not doing well. That's kind of where we want to get to, because we want to scoop up just that small handful of kids, and right now we have too many kids not doing well to fit that model. So Solution Tree comes in, they're coming in Wednesday and doing that work at the high school with our staff, and then they come back in September, and they come back every month around our PD days, and they do embedded coaching with teachers while students are in the school to help with our instruction, and then the days when we have PD where students are not with us, they sit down and they work through with the teachers about next steps. So it's really a comprehensive plan. One of the things that school districts tend to do is they do one-off PDs where it's like, we'll send a group here, and it might be a great PD, but then they come back and it's not making a full impact on who we are, right? It might make that teacher better, awesome, but then our students are still failing. So we need a collective, whole group, everyone moving in the same direction in our schools and in our district, and Solution Tree is the way to do it. They have the best research behind them, they have the best coaches. These are coaches who have lived and turned their own schools that have now become consultants, that know exactly what it feels like to sit in Ms. Borneman's position of walking into school knowing the need, and to help us move that in the direction that we need to.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and then we'll have share-outs, and we'll have, you know, as the year goes on, regarding the work that they're doing and the progress that we're seeing. They're very data-driven as well. They actually come and do a full needs assessment. So in September, they're starting it right now with data. They look comprehensively through all our data. Then they actually start interviewing. They'll probably interview some of you, community members, students, teachers, everyone, and they create a 45-page plan of what they find within that needs assessment that set us up for success. And that's something at our level we can't comprehensively do to the level that they do it.
Do they also help address like classroom management?
Absolutely.
Behavioral issues, anything like that?
If your instruction
All of
is
it?
good, you don't have that. I'm just
Fair
going to say
point.
it. If you are engaging as an instructor and you have high-quality resources in front of them and you know how to utilize that and put in instructional practices that keep students engaged, I don't care if they like the subject or content matter, if you have that, you don't have behaviors. You might have here and there of a student who's having a rough day, but for the most part, if your instruction is better, your behavior goes down.
I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah, sometimes we look at it backwards, right? We say like, oh, we have so much behavior, that's why our instruction's not good. Well, you have the behavior because they're bored, and adults are boring, and sometimes we bore our kids to death in our classrooms. So we want to switch that and provide really high-level instruction. Our behavior will go down, and it'll be easier then to focus on the students with the mental health concerns, with the higher behavior needs, because your pot of kids that are struggling is a lot smaller, and you can be more targeted. Right now, I do feel bad for kids that have intense needs, because when you have so many kids with so many needs, it's hard to really be targeted on those certain few that, you know, are really struggling, that need that extra high-level targeted support. And right now, we're not able to give it to the level that they need it. So it'll benefit all kids. Like I said, even our highest achievers don't want to be sitting in a class and getting a worksheet, getting a packet, right? We can do so much better for our kids who are advanced, high achieving, the ones who are ready for college or a career. We can do better for them as well.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you are welcome.
Any other questions or discussion? Any other questions or discussion? I will say Dr. John Maxwell is a leadership guru, and he says in every organization, the leadership will determine its success or its failure. And when you see a leader that is excited about their organization, it will show on their face. And when Angie had that question and Mrs. Stutstream was coming to the microphone, you can see the excitement on her face for this great opportunity for our staff. The voting device is now open. Scott, you want to try it one more time? Would anyone like to change their vote? All right, the vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter K, Tina, if you will let the record reflect that I will recuse myself from letter K, from any discussion as well as the vote. Thank you. And I will turn the gavel over to our Vice President.
I need a motion on the teacher handbook.
I move the Board of Education to approve an updated teacher handbook contracts.
Bobby, would you like to speak to your motion?
I would ask for someone from curriculum to touch on this.
I can talk to the teacher handbook. So what we did was we took the employee handbook and we separated it into two separate handbooks because there was a lot of confusion around what category specific rules or benefits applied to. And another thing that we did was we changed the benefits, all the benefits language that was in the handbook now is a link to the employee benefits so that it's updated each year as our benefits are updated. And it's a lot less to digest as well. And then also one thing to note in the teacher handbook is, and support staff handbook, is the changes to the dress code. And I guess for clarification, I would like to point out there were some people who took this information to be that jeans and or leggings would never be allowed, and that simply is not the case. They will be allowed on particular occasions. If it's a Maroon Monday, they would be able to wear jeans on that day. Leggings can be worn every day as long as there's appropriate coverage to go along with that. So it's some messaging that I received from the community through focus groups that we did last year, sharing concerns about some of the professional duress of our staff. And in fact, I've also received communication from our community as well, commending the changes because they feel too that, you know, we are professionals. And it's hard sometimes to be able to tell the difference between who is a staff member and who is one of our students. So it's important, I feel. We are professionals.
Yeah, I agree. I grew up in a teacher's house. I was a teacher, and I was always told if you wanted to be paid as a professional, you should dress as one. And
Absolutely.
I mean, even in the shop, when I worked in the shop, Mr. Wetland always had collared shirt, khaki pants. His whole staff did. So I guess I applaud it.
Any other questions or discussion?
I think it's important to point out that it's not saying, I don't think the intent is that the staff do not dress professionally as a whole.
Right.
Because that would not be true. But it's just honing in on the level of professionalism. And I will also share that staff wardrobe has been brought to me as a community member several years ago now, so way before this was a discussion topic. Again, not in all staff or even a majority of staff, but that it's been noted by others and posed to me, and this is, I wasn't even a board member at the time, when you walk into a school, that's a business. You're running a business. So when your community members or parents or whomever walks into your building, it should present as a business as well. I'm not targeting anybody at any front desk in any building, but it was an observation.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, the voting devices are now open. Dustin, you can show us the results. And it passes. Before I hand this back to Mr. Pyatt, I will be recusing on the next item, and I will not be voting or talking.
Item letter L, support staff handbook. I would be looking for a motion, please.
I move the Board of Education to approve the updated support staff handbook contracts.
Motion's been made by Angie. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Any discussion or questions of the motion on the floor? Any discussion or questions of the motion on the floor? Hearing none, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? Vote is now closed, and the motion passes. On the line of the professional handbook that has just been passed by you as the board, I do want to make this publicly that we as a board must also adhere to the same policies and dress professionally as we come to board meetings here and for the future. Thank you. Letter M, report of donations. I will be looking for a motion.
I move the board approve the following donations: $1,750 from Antigo Optimist Club for Skills USA, $22,990 from Antigo Wrestling Club for high school athletic wrestling mats, $1,500 from Covantage Credit Union for Fill a Backpack, Fill a Need, $500 from George and Jane Schinner for boys high school hockey blue line fundraiser, $1,000 from Antigo Optimist Club for Fill a Backpack, Fill a Need, and $15,000 from Andy and Leanne Sheldon Charitable Trust for Clara R. McKenna Aquatic Center for a total amount of $42,740.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
As always, our appreciation is extended to community members for their kindness and generosity to our district.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion of the motion on the floor? All in favor of receiving these donations for the school district, let it be known by saying aye.
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 And I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Number 5, closed session. Consideration of a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Section 19.851G of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral and written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. I would be looking, yeah?
So before we do a vote to go into closed session, I have communication from a community member that I will be sharing with each of you, a paper copy, and I had planned to have it at your seats tonight, and I forgot to get it out of my folder. So that will be coming. It is from a community member. I just wanted to make sure that we had it recorded. It doesn't
Okay,
require any kind of response or anything, just
Okay,
he wanted to make sure that each board member got a copy.
okay, thank you. So I will be looking for a motion for going into closed session.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Bobby. Would you like to speak to that motion?
No, thank you.
Any discussion of the motion? Tina, I'd like to have a roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. We are now in closed session.